cannot do anything we want because we live to please God. We live to serve God through obedience to his commandments. When reading this, just a few minutes ago, I just thought about all the circumstances that surround the world today and how we are not one humanity, even though Muslims want to be, and people say it outwardly, but not necessarily perform actions that personify oneness in humanity. And I personally think all solutions to all problems is through al-Islam. I was reading a book by this man named William Blight, I believe his name is what was, and he's considered the father of Pan-Africanism, and he was a Christian. He wrote a book called Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. And from this book, he was trying to figure out why Islam was so successful in Africa, because Christianity wasn't, at least up to his understanding. And he said it was because al-Islam embraced all people as one. And there was a means for Africans to have stability and to grow in al-Islam, when in Christianity they were still seen as less than in other races. Now this man was a Christian. He believed that Islam was a bridge to get to al-Islam. He didn't realize that Islam was the actual solution. He thought it was a means to the solution. But I thought it was very interesting, and he has tons and tons of quotes on al-Islam and how it affected the African people and why it was so successful there, and that the African Muslims felt some superiority, so some idea of that their knowledge or their understanding of God was superior to that of any other belief in God, particularly the belief in a human God. And I also feel that today, just with all the things going on in the world today, that there is a war on African Americans. There's a war on Muslims simultaneously. Now, me being an African American Muslim, it is double the dilemma on me. The only thing worse is if I believe that if I was a woman, and that women also have a discrimination upon them. So a black Muslim woman is probably the most oppressed person on the face of this earth. Secondly, is the African American Muslim man. So we have to be steadfast, we have to be more diligent in our worship to God, in our understanding of God, and in the defense of God. Each day I watch television, or someone gives me some report on what happened on the news, and it drives me crazy, just because it's something that's incensing, that makes no moral sense for people to not be outraged by it, or to not be on our side, to see that what is happening to black people particularly is an injustice. And this injustice is a microcosm of what is happening around the world in the Muslim community, in that injustices are happening to them, and a minute percentage of them act out negatively and do something that is un-Islamic, something that is criminal, but the whole gets charged with that. In the same way someone kills someone in Louisiana, and the entire Black Lives Movement is indicted for that. I think the African American in America has the ability to change the entire world. As the Imam said last week, and I think he said it previously, is that al-Islam is our compensation. That's the word I'm looking for all of the injustice that has happened to us throughout the world. We have the ability to change everything, to change the entire world. But there is a war against Islam, I believe. This is my judgment on that. Seeing that day after day, week after week, other religions are on the decline. Non-religious affiliation is on the uprise. The only religion that is still growing is al-Islam. They cannot combat it with actual knowledge. So what they have to do is put us in a negative light, non-stop. Just yesterday, I saw a Bill Maher show. Now, Bill Maher is generally for Democrats, so I'm listening to things he has to say, but he drives me crazy with his anti-Islamic rhetoric. And he had a man on there who was speaking at the RNC. He was a former Army general, I believe, and both of them were saying that we have to label terrorism not just as terrorism, but as Islamic terrorism. It's a special kind of terrorism. He said it's a special kind of stain that Al-Islam has that needs to be dealt with. And I feel that when I was growing up, at a certain age in my life, I didn't want to tell people I was a Muslim. And then I realized that I believe in something that is the absolute truth. I wonder, do people realize or they understand that nothing else is better than Al-Islam? Nothing. I've spent my life challenging people. I don't mean challenging them, but talking to them about their religion. And they tell me about something else. And I say, compare that to Al-Islam. It always pales in comparison to Al-Islam, because the Quran says the truth compared to falsehood is clear. It's clear. Everything we do, every practice that we practice, every pillar is something that is superior to others' beliefs. If just a small percentage of us do it, there are almost 2 billion Muslims on earth. If all of them prayed during Fajr, or half of them, or 1/3 of them, that'd be 600 million people at one time praying. What other belief system can have such unity? What other belief system does? The Hajj. I mean, all of our pillars, just each one by one. The problem of racism itself can be extinguished through the practice of Al-Islam. In fact, as I was talking about the father of Pan-Africanism, he specifically said himself, Islam was a solution to racism, just as Malcolm X did. Obviously, there will still be racism because people are people. In the same way, there will still be violence forever, but we have the actual solution to it. Each of our pillars is a pillar that accentuates and affects the problem of racism, in that we believe in one God, and we are one humanity, and that God brought prophets to all people. That is clearly a oneness in humanity, and that he is not placing one above another. That we pray in unison. If we look around the world, just think about when we pray. If we were able to look at the globe, it would be like dominoes of Muslims praying all around the world, and in every nation. The Hajj, the fasting, is a form of empathy to show our sympathy, our emotion, our feeling for people who are less than, whatever color, creed they may be. And the zakat, and that is another form of charity. And if you can't even perform charity, the poor can give of their time, can smile, can do anything to help affect other people. Our entire belief system is something that should be spread around the world, and it's being demonized. So I felt that I'm going to use this 30 minutes every week. 20 minutes of it would just be comparative religion. I bring the Bible up and talk about the Bible or the Quran or Hinduism, Buddhism, all these other isms. Compared to Islam, it pales in comparison. There's no doubt in my mind that Al-Islam is the absolute 1,000% truth. I stand in front of people all the time. They always have criticism. So what I ask them is, what is the answer? Don't give me the problem. What is the answer to this problem? And every time they bring up something, I juxtapose it with Al-Islam, and each time it fails. Each time it fails. So that's what I want to do moving forward. If there's any questions, I wanted to leave it open to y'all to ask some questions. Yes?
Assalamualaikum. So, thank you.
No.
And love your passion, love your zeal about the religion. One thing has stuck out in this talk, and it was a part of what you read about knowing the family, knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it meant to me. So getting yourself together, getting your family, knowing your tribe, and then
The world.
okay.
Absolutely.
So what hit me in that is that as African Americans, on a large part, we miss the know thyself. We were instructed, encouraged to accept everybody else. We just want to get along before we really knew our true value and who we were. And I think that that's what has been a thorn in our side, and it has held us back because we have always been given something else to look to. Caucasians, Chinese, Asians, they're smart, they're this, they're that, and it was always like something that we're always trying to ascribe to, instead of understanding and knowing our greatness. And if we had done that, and if we were taught to do that, then we would really understand the power that we hold, given this gift of Alpha.
I just recently got this kit for Ancestry DNA, right? And I can't wait for the results to come back, but it takes about 6 weeks. So I wanted to also publicize that because a friend of mine did the same thing, and just talk about, you know, where our ancestry lies. But just with knowledge and science, in the Quran it talks about Adam and his wife. And the same thing in the Bible. I just recently found that scientists are acknowledging that there was an Adam and Eve. I read a book recently that said Arabia at one point, before the plates collided, was connected to Africa. So it was considered North Africa. And in fact, when they migrated out of Africa, they migrated through Arabia. And the Semitic languages originated in Ethiopia. And the Prophet Muhammad's peace and blessings be upon him, he sent the Sahaba, when they were first being persecuted, he sent them to Abyssinia. You know what? It's funny, as I didn't realize Abyssinia was Ethiopia. I read the two, but I never put them together. So much history, all of human history started in Africa. If people had the understanding, that would erase racism. In fact, everybody on earth is black. They're just different shades of black. They had to come from black people. So the idea of racism itself is something that is completely absurd. What are you going to say?
2 or 3 things. First, they did a series on PBS on the beginning of civilization, and they said that all the different ethnic groups came from Africa, originated from Africa. And they talked about how they spread it, how they intermingled and stuff like that. The other one is Muslim Imam spoke about that some time ago, and he said that Muslim is not a religious term. It's a term that applies to everyone.
And everything.
And everything. And I've been telling people that they think that somebody say Muslim or part of this group, they want to label you. And I said, no, it's not that way. I said, Christians are Muslim. Anybody that submit their total self to the will of God is Muslim.
That truth is what sealed the deal for me when I was about 15 years old. I had 2 criteria that I thought were true, and that would prove to me what religion was true. It was that God is always, always powerful, never vulnerable, and that whatever the religion, it encompasses everybody. And when I found out Al-Islam not only includes everybody, but everything, I knew it was the truth. I knew it was the truth. Not only that, is it such a simplistic truth that everyone from every time in history will be able to understand it. So not only is the first people were Muslims, I mean the first everything, the son submits his will to the will of God. That's when I knew for certain that it was true. As it pertains to your first statement, and it is also found that in Africa originated all the other languages. Not only that, is in Africa they found out the genotype and phenotype for everybody is in Africa. Therefore, how you look and all your genes is personified in African people. So they had to come from Africans. We are all one people, which is, someone were in the Caucasus Mountains, someone went over here and went over there, and the environment changed their complexion, and it was conducive to whatever complexion or whatever features they needed. As the Imam said, whether you're larger nostrils or whatever the situation may be, it was initially you were dark-skinned black people. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I actually have a request of you. But in addition to that request,
The request.
going back, tying it into what Sister was saying about DNA, I know the brother here gave classes, gave several classes on DNA, and we talked about DNA. And I'm gonna come from left field with this now, with the whole DNA thing. I'm gonna ask that on those things you do, incorporate the DNA of this community. And what I mean by that is that some of those things, that great knowledge and that passion that you have, if you could wrap in that, some of that, and find out where the language of Imam Muhammad, God will forgive the sins of grandparents, because there's a wealth of stuff that's out there, and Imam Farid always brings that in, and pot box that in there, and I'm saying that would also be a great thing that is the DNA, that goes even, I'm saying the DNA doesn't start right there with him, with his father, but I'm saying that DNA of this community, of this association, because we also do in this association. So there's a wealth of knowledge out there on those topics that you were saying, that you
absolutely. You always tell me
Inshallah.
you give me some work to do. All right.
But also, in addition to that work, I think one of the things in the latest newsletter will be, and I mentioned it to Imam before, I know he has a wealth of things, but now access to all of us. It used to be in the Imam, W.D. Muhammad's study library. They've kind of did some legal things and done with that. But there's another website out there that has all of the lectures that Imam Muhammad did.
I have them from you.
Oh, you did? Okay. But I'm talking about the transcripts. You have them on the disc. Most people I gave have them on disc. But now the transcripts are readily available, specific questions and things like that. And a lot of that, I'm just asking you to follow the example of our Imam here, Imam Farid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was talking to him last week about Imam Muhammad said, you know how people say the lesser of two evils because they don't really like either of the candidates. Imam Muhammad said, he didn't say the lesser of two evils, he said, if you can't pick the best, pick the better of the two. It sounds much better than lesser of two evils, right? Pick the better of the two. Yes.
Just something to add to what you were saying in regards to praying at a given moment around the world, the other remark you made. Something that kind of got me was I heard it said that if you throw all the Qurans and the Bibles in the ocean, the Quran will be back in a day or two, and one of my biggest issues with Christianity was the way the Bible had been corrupted through the years, and that was a kind of strong point for me because it is in the heart. There's the amount of people who know it in heart. They may not fully understand it, but they know it and it will.
I would request everyone, if they had time, to read the book Servant of Allah. And it talks about the slaves that were brought here that memorized the Quran and wrote it down. That's how well acquainted with Al-Islam was what they were and the Arabic language. Not only that, is they began revolts by talking to each other in Arabic because their slave master didn't know what they were talking about. And they were writing it down on the beaches to remember the language. They fasted, they prayed, they did everything that Muslims do under the most extreme circumstances known to man. When you just said that, it reminded me, I wanted to say something about this quote that is from the Hadith of that if you do a good deed and you teach someone to do a good deed, even in your grave it will continue to build and build. The Imam here, in the Quran it says the foremost, it talks about the foremost and those who will just be into heaven. If the Imam is not the foremost, I don't know who the foremost is. Obviously, I am not Allah. I can't make a judgment on that. But from everything he has taught, and then everyone he has taught, and people we don't even know yet. If my son teaches his children, it's something else, and on and on and on again. We all can do this, though. We all can do this. We all have the ability to do it to some degree. But the Imam here is giving us so much of himself, and I feel like people don't realize it, and I don't want it to be, he did give us all of this information, but we don't have it anywhere recorded. So that's why I wanted to record it with his blessing, because he can answer any question for you. I can't. I tell people all the time, I go to talk to universities, and the first thing I say is, if I can't answer the question, I'll go and find out what the answer is. I'm not a scholar, I'm just a student of Islam. And generally they ask questions that I have, some answers to, and if I don't, actually I come back to the Imam, make sure I said the right answer. They asked me actually, what was that question they asked me, Imam? This one lady asked me, are there dogs in heaven, right? And I've been doing the class for years, right? So that question never came up. But I said, and I asked the Imam, and they said in the Quran that what you have in this life, well, you have it in paradise, but it'll be a lot better. So if it's in this life, then probably dogs are in there, but I don't know specifically, And then asked the Imam, he said something around those same lines. So, but I always preface everything with, this is what I think, because if I don't know for sure, then this is what I think, But, and the other thing with that is, every time I go to those religious classes, they love learning about Islam. They have a preconceived notion, and not only that is, the professor is a Christian, and he brings me there on purpose. My brother's wife was a student there, so she asked me to come because he asked me to come because she did a question and answer on me, and he asked me to come and speak to the class, and I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years now, and the class wants to learn about Islam. They already have preconceived ideas though. Some of them have been in the military, so they've been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then a lot of them, most of the time, they corroborate what I'm saying. If I say that, that this is obviously a war-torn society that may not know much about Islam, and that's the reason that they're acting the way they do, they corroborate those things, especially those people who've been in the military who, not only are there people fighting them that are Muslim, but a lot of the Muslim natives there are helping the American troops because they are being oppressed themselves. As we all know, the biggest victim of terrorism is Muslims. So why would we be wanting violence and terrorism,
Yeah, just a quick thing about the racism, when I talk about Islam, people that we're working with, it's like, not so much as the white people, yeah, the racism everywhere, but when I say something towards about the black people, when you say, well, the black man people coming from Africa, all the good things, the positive black, the pro-black, they just love it and they gravitate to it. But at the same time, I have to constantly remind them that on the religious note, don't go into the nationalism, because when I first came into Islam, that's what pulled me towards it. Just looking at the nationalist thing, and what I was looking for was a religion. And I tell the Imam this all the time. That's why I'm so thankful that I came here, as opposed to any other masjid that have been, promoting, the nationalism. So, I just wanted to bring that up. That the black thing, that's we have to, we can't throw that away. Definitely take it and realize it, and let it, and all the things that the white, that's a Caucasian or whatever, trying to cover up, Islam. We have to let them know that, hey, it's a religious aspect, that no one man, that's what we thrive off in the Quran. That no one is better, than another, only in terms of how we serve God.
I try to keep that in my conscience when I'm speaking with anyone else that's in the audience that is black. I mean, that's not black, whether they're Arab, white, or whatever. As I don't want to alienate them, but I'm saying that it's a fact, So, but we're all one people. So, if you look at it that way, that helps to distinguish this idea of superiority and inferiority. If you came from me, how can you be better than I am? If I invented everything that you use to thrive and develop, how can you be better than me? And I did it with you. They took it. We actually invented it. It was not there, and then we made it happen. And then even in the Spanish Moors, they talk about how they bring hygiene, highway lights, and all those things. How can you have civilizations without lights, without washing up? And then we had freedoms. The Jewish golden era was the thrive amongst the Muslim golden era. We didn't oppress them. They were running to us from Christians.
I just want to say that
the purest light.
Purest light.
The purest light unites all colors.
Yes.
The purest light unites all colors. It didn't come from me. It came from Imam Deputy Muhammad. And I I say that too to say something that Ishmael was trying to emphasize. I am a student of the, as I've told you all many times, I'm a student of the Quran, I'm a student of Muhammad the Prophet, praise and peace be on him, and I'm a student of Imam W. Muhammad. So the language that you hear me using is a reflection of his language, for the most part. Now, I'm not a person that doesn't study and haven't blessed me with ideas beyond those three sources. Well, I would say the third source more so, Imam Muhammad, his commentary, which means that I'm saying I have expanded on that foundation that I have. I've expanded on, and I do that by studying. So, but the language in general is very important. The language is extremely important, as has been stated already, you know. And Imam Muhammad was a person who was very, very, very particular about language. When you talk to him, I remember asking him to do something one time, and before I could finish, as soon as the words got off my tongue, I caught it and I corrected it. He was ready to correct me, and I caught it and corrected it. I said it was a request, and he gave in to the request. The request was that he would. I asked him, would he be willing to have a retreat with the imams to teach us fiqh? And this was during the time when I was working with the Madhab, School of Thought. And anybody know what made me retract, what I retracted? Retreat. Exactly. Retreat. Because retreat means to do what? To go back. To go backwards. That's what retreat means. But you know, a lot of people in the world, they say we're going to have a retreat. We're going city council. No, they're going what they call a retreat. A lot of people, they say we're going to have a retreat. Retreat means to go backwards. And as soon as the word got off my tongue, I caught myself. He was getting ready to, I know Imam Muhammad. I know he was getting ready to correct me. I knew he was. And I said, no, not retreat, brother, man. I mean conference. He said, yes. And we did it in Cleveland. We had the conference in Cleveland. So I can't emphasize enough that it's important for all of us to pay special attention to the language that we use. I'm not going to take the whole half hour. I'm going to, whatever questions I can answer, if any, I will entertain. Assalamu alaikum.
Hanif and I have been having this conversation. First, I want to say that I'm so glad that we have a time frame on being mad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got to get over it.
Right.
I'm just trying to schedule mine.
Right.
You know, 'cause I'm not ready to get over it yet. But we were having this conversation about in Quran where it says that Allah will cover their hearts
Mm-hmm.
and cover so they can't even, their
Right.
eyes can't even see. And we were comparing it to what's going on in society now in the treatment of African Americans and all these killings and all of this stuff, you know. And I was saying to him, I wasn't ready to get mad so I can get over it yet.
Yeah.
You know, and because he was saying, think about it, they can't even ask for forgiveness because they don't even know that they're wrong.
Right.
You know, and it put me in a place where I'm thankful for the religion because it holds me accountable to a higher level of thinking.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And again, I said, but I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to be that
Yeah.
big girl right
Yeah.
now because
Yeah.
I want to be mad, you know, and I want to not give folk an excuse.
I understand.
You know, and then he was like, but just think about it, Ruthie, they can't even ask for forgiveness, you know? And then it made me think about Catholicism and all. You know, I went to Catholic school, and you said, you know, it's like kill the whole world, and then go say your acts of contrition, your 4 Hail Marys, you know, and all of that, and all is fine.
Yeah. Well.
And so I just, you know, I threw it out there because it just addresses so many things for you in life that you just have to put yourself out there and say, Allah says it, you know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm gonna take that as a question.
Yes, please.
Okay. You know, Allah one of the names of the Quran is Furqan, al-Furqan. And it means the criteria, it means the standard bearer. And when we look at the life of Muhammad the Prophet, praise and peace be on him, we follow his sunnah. We follow his sunnah. And when we reflect on what the Quran tells us about life, about people, etc., it is the criteria. The standard is so high, extremely high as it can get. And when we look at the human model that Allah gives us, and when I say Allah gives us, I'm actually saying the Quran references is Muhammad the Prophet. And when I, as a follower of Muhammad the Prophet, and a student of the Quran, and one who seeks to obey the Quran, the word of Allah, when I look at those two higher authorities, I know I'm not there. But the good thing that we have, many of us have in common, is that we hold those two authorities as the standard. And we know that we are not there yet, but we continue to strive to get there. The problem becomes, or the worst situation that we could find ourselves in, is to say, that's the standard. I know that's the standard, but I don't want to be like that. That's when we got a problem on our hands.
Right.
But as long as we hold out hope and we keep striving and struggling, praying, and doing everything we can to try to reach that criteria and those higher authorities, to live up to that, then we have a chance. And that's what's important. So none of us are there. I can't claim I'm on the level of Muhammad the Prophet. You know, I don't even claim to be on the level of Imam W.D. Muhammad in terms of a moral figure, and certainly not as an intellectual figure. But I know that I'm a student. I'm a serious student. I'm been very tenacious about, you know, obeying and following the authorities that we all Muslims have, all of us as Muslims have, and that's the thing that keeps me moving forward. And one other thing I make before I finish responding is that for myself, and I know a lot of people can't really identify with what Imam Muhammad says when he talks about himself in the second person. He refers to W.D. Muhammad being his leader. And people are like, what are you talking about, man? You are W.D. Muhammad. You are, no, he says Imam W.D. Muhammad. Let me correct that. He says Imam W.D. Muhammad. That's my leader. That's my Imam. And that's the way I think of myself. I think of myself like that because I know me and I know Imam Vernon Fareed. And the fact that I'm in this position, believe it or not, the fact that I'm in this position, it forces me, because of my commitment to honoring the position, it forces me to do things that I have to do to honor the position rather than do the thing that Vernon Fareed wants to do. You all understand what I'm saying? So, I like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, look, I want you to know I'm with you. You know, I support you, and this and that. This is somebody in our business association we have. And I have that, I would say, honor, again, to be the president of the business association. So the person was telling me, I'm with you, I support you, and, you know, I'm with you 130%, and so on and so and so. And the person said to me, I know, so you don't have to tell me. There's certain things you can't say, and you can't do. Now, he's talking from the standpoint of me being president of a business association. And he's right. As a president of the business association, there are certain things that I want to say and I can't say, and I can't do because of my position. But on a higher level, the office of Imam is not the office of any of us who have that title. It's the office of the Prophet himself. So I have to restrain myself. Certain things I want to say, certain things I see happening here in the Masjid. And I want to just be Vernon Fareed and deal with it. But I can't. I have to be Imam. I have to let the Imam lead me. And I have to be conscious, you know you're Imam. I talk to myself sometimes, you know you're Imam, man. You can't, don't go down that road. Don't act like that. Don't say that. Don't do this. And that's what keeps me, at least, I would say, moving forward. And I hope that I'm getting better. That's my striving anyway. That's my desire to get better in terms of my morality, in terms of my commitment, in terms of being increasing my knowledge and understanding, not for glory. What I'm alluding to is the tree in the midst of the garden.
Yeah.
The tree in the midst of the garden is a tree that wants to be acknowledged for the sake of glory and people praising. So, you know, not that tree. I don't want to be that tree. When we ask, Allah says that it says in our religion in many places that if you want to know whether Allah loves a person, if Allah blesses a person with knowledge, increases a person with knowledge, that's a sign that Allah loves that person. So I don't want to be looked at, and I don't look at myself as a person who is boasting or bragging, but I want to be a person who is loved by Allah. And knowledge, whatever knowledge Allah blesses me with, I want to utilize the knowledge in the right way. In the right way.
Wait a minute, I just want to say, and that's what we were so thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though, you want to be pissed off and you want to do something, just the fact that you held accountable,
Yeah.
To think and act a certain way.
Right.
You might not be where it's at,
Yeah.
but you know it's something there that's holding you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I'm just thankful for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Why not Islam?
First of all, I just want to say this is a great idea, and thanks for that you brought it up. I'd say about a week now, about 2 weeks really. I'm thinking about this Black Lives Matter situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I said to myself, if they would just put one word on the end of that, it would just shut down a whole lot of foolishness. Black Lives Matter 2,
Mhm.
TWO.
Mm-hmm.
Because you listen to Fox and the places that you talk about, they just come against that.
Mhm.
Like what? My life don't matter.
Mhm.
You just said Black Lives Matter too.
Mm-hmm.
That shuts it all down because that means everybody else life matter. It's just that mine don't,
Yeah.
and it need to. Second thing was, and the only other person I heard say it was Steve Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
I said that must have been a good idea.
Yeah.
I heard him say that.
Mhm.
And the other one, you heard the comments by Newt Gingrich
No, I haven't.
What'd you say?
Newt Gingrich,
Oh,
when he just went on his rant about what we need to do about the number one threat to American society in the world. Is radical Islamic terrorists. And then I found out, or I surmised that the reason why the president don't use that word like that, because it's either al-Islam or it's radical something else. There's no such thing as radical Islam. It's either al-Islam or it's something else. So he don't associate radical Islam with what's going on right now, because they're not Muslim, they're not acting Muslim.
Yeah.
So,
I say I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it directly.
okay.
But I did hear about it.
Okay.
I
It was
heard,
bad.
I heard about his
It was real bad.
ravings about that.
Mhm.
And I think Ishmael was addressing it earlier about white people. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was saying that Bill Maher felt that he has to identify this terrorism as a special type of terrorism. Islamic terrorist, is that what he said? Yeah. So if we were to adopt his logic,
exactly.
sometimes I wish I had the opportunity to debate some of these people.
I do too.
And again, that shouldn't be our propensity. That shouldn't be our desire. I remember, and I'll make this comment because this is important too. And some of you, many of you perhaps, of Dr. Ahmed Imam, Sheikh, the late Sheikh Ahmed Didat
from South
Yeah.
Africa. Yeah.
from South Africa. Very knowledgeable
Yeah.
person, when it came to scripture, comparative religions, Bible and Quran. And he could debate or argue, whatever term you want to use, with the best of them from Christianity and make them look like fools. You know, because he had that depth of knowledge of Al-Islam and Quran and Bible, I should say. And so he was embraced by many Muslims around the world. But the most learned people in the religion, and I learned this, I discovered this from Imam Muhammad, the most learned people in the religion did not, I would say, endorse his method. His method, not what he was saying, but his method. And the reason they did not endorse his method is because of what the Quran says. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. To you be your way and to me mine. And the Imam said that means don't waste time arguing with the devil. Don't waste time arguing with the devil. So we should defend our religion whenever we have opportunities. We should defend our religion. I noticed when Ishmael was talking, he was kind of caught himself. He was very particular about the words he was using. And he said, I don't mean argue. He said, I don't mean argue with them. But what he was saying is that that's not what we're supposed to do. And we're not supposed to argue with people about religion. But he said educate, inform, enlighten, whatever. And that's what we should do. And we should do that when the opportunity avails itself. And we should do that whenever we are attacked. When I say we are attacked, our religion is attacked. If the religion of Al-Islam is being attacked, I have an obligation to defend the religion. And I tell people, I'm not defending terrorists, I'm defending the religion. But let me go back to this commentator's logic. If he's going to, or he feels it necessary to label specifically this type of terrorism, is Islamic terrorism, then I wonder would he agree to accept that the terrorism that was being heaped upon African Americans was white terrorism. I don't even have to say Christian. I don't even have to, I say it white for a reason. Because, you know, when we, and many times, I'll say this too, and I'll talk about the Ku Klux Klan and Christianity. I'll make that religious connection. But let's expand that. Because it really wasn't just the Klan who were doing the things that were doing to us. It was a lot of white folks that were not a part of the Klan. They had the same idea, they had the same philosophy, they thought of us in the same way as the Klan did, but they were not members of the Klan. So this was a widespread thing among white people, and still is among many, that they think of us as being inferior, as has been said by so many of you today. They think of us as being inferior to them, just because of the color of our skin. So, and we were impacted negatively because of the way that they thought of us. So wasn't that terrorism? That was terrorism, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder would he be willing to accept that that was white terrorism? I mean, based on his logic. I'm saying you use your logic. If you're going to specify that this is a particular type of terrorism, because it's coming from, in your mind, a particular group of people, religious people in your mind, then let's take the same logic and apply it to the terrorism. We got to remember, we were terrorized. That was terrorism. That's this language that they're using now called terrorism. We were terrorized. We were at the brunt of terrorism, what they did to us. And many of us are still terrified right now. You know, so I wonder would he be willing to accept that that was white terrorism? It would cause him to rethink. Oh no, it wasn't white terrorism. It was just it wasn't just the Klan. It wasn't just the Klan. It was a lot of you white folks who were doing what you were doing to us and feeling the way you were feeling about us and treating us the way you were treating us. And it was not all of you. Just like it's not all of us. It has been stated it's almost 2 billion Muslims in the world. I said it on an interview one time, a television interview, And the moderator told me after we came off the air, the moderator told me, whoa, wow, you know, I never thought about it like that. I say, if this was the belief of the almost 2 billion Muslims in the world, I think I said 1.8 at the time, 1.8 billion Muslims, and we acted on what some people think is our religion, which is to terrorize people, to kill people, innocent people and whatnot, what do you think this world would look like? If you let loose almost 2 billion people, and they're carrying out what the religion says, which is to kill all innocent people, people who don't believe like we. I said, what do you think would happen in this world? What would this world look like? I said, that should tell you that that's not the religion. And they said, wow, I never thought of it like that. So, yes.
Yeah, just brother, a couple of things on what you said. A lot of times people, when they talk about the race thing and being slavery and all that type of thing, they say, y'all need to forget about this. They need to forget about that.
Yeah.
But tell a Jewish person
Right.
to forget about the Holocaust.
That's right.
They never will,
That's right.
and I'm not saying they ever should.
Right.
So whenever I get in discussions like
Yeah.
that, I remind people
Yeah.
that, that's every year,
Yeah.
it's
That's right.
National Holocaust.
That's right.
They got the Holocaust Museum,
Yeah.
and their whole mantra is never forget.
Never forget.
And so we can never forget and still move forward.
Right.
But we can also never.
That's right. Exactly. I agree with you 1,000. And I've said the same thing. And now here's where I think it will become problematic if you never forgive.
Right. That's,
You know, you can never forget, but do forgive.
that
Yeah.
comes almost like in South Africa. At some point, and people keep talking, there needs to be a reconciliation.
Yes.
And somewhere we actually get out and just like they did in South Africa. Say,
Yeah.
okay, you killed my mama, you
Yeah.
killed my daddy,
Yeah.
my grandmama, and all that, but I forgive you.
Yeah.
But say you did.
Yeah.
Because I can't forgive you.
That's
Right, I can't forgive
that's
you
Ruth's point.
until you say you did it. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Going-
right,
going-
Yeah,
going
I can't
back
forgive
to-
nobody
Yeah.
that didn't
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost
I'm
like,
not just
and
gonna offer it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? But we should.
Yeah.
But you have to get, it's a level that we have to get to do that.
It is.
It is a level that we have to get to do that. But we should even, and it's not it's no one application to every situation. In other words, you have to look at each situation differently, individually. But we have to get to a point sometimes where even if the person doesn't acknowledge they're wrong, for the sake of us moving forward, for the sake of you moving forward, and also not only that, but for the sake of just us being in accord with the Quran and the Prophet's life, we have to. Yeah. Go
Am I
ahead.
wrong, but am I wrong in my understanding that Allah says He will forgive those who ask for forgiveness?
But he forgives us. He forgives us even when we don't ask for forgiveness. Because he says it.
That part.
He says it. Yeah. He says, look, he says, Ghafurur Rahim. Ghafurur Rahim. Forgiveness and mercy. And he says he does that over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
Now, if you think of the human beings that done wrong and who didn't ask God for forgiveness for that wrong that they did, but God forgave them anyway, then you see millions upon millions upon millions of people who fit into that description. And the other thing is, we know that it happens, we know that God does it because he says, if the human being, if he did not forgive the human being for the wrong that they've done, there would be nobody left on the face of the earth. So there's evidence, and there's much evidence I could bring out to say that God does forgive us. And Muhammad the Prophet, he forgave people for the things that they did to him. For example, when he was walking through the city in Taif, and they stoned him. You know, those people, it never came to the prophet and said, hey, man, we sorry we took those stones on you, bust your head, or had blood running down into your sandals. But he forgave. But again, I'm not Prophet Muhammad. You know what I mean? And it takes me, and that's why I understand.
Yeah.
We're human.
Right.
I mean, and he was a human, but his model is excellence in human behavior. And that's something we got to rise to. And it's a struggle getting up there. And that's why I say, I acknowledge I'm not on the level of Muhammad the Prophet, but that's my model. And I want to be like him. And there are times when I have risen to that level. And I say, well, this right here, I'm with you 1,000%, Prophet Muhammad. And I've grown to the point, Allah blessed me to grow to the point where I can do what you did and handle this situation the way you handled it. But this one over here, it's going to take me a while, so forgive me. Yes.
The second, you guys just said the second one, part of it, was being able to discern when to let an argument go.
Yes.
Like, for instance, because there'll be some people who are arguing with you about something, religion, otherwise, just for the sake of arguing.
Right.
Just for the sake.
Right.
So at some point, even though you want to defend, I'm asking, you know what I'm saying? At some point, I guess I have to find a way to discern whether or not that person is sincere in wanting information.
That's exactly right. And I didn't finish my point. I don't think I finished my point when he was talking about Ahmed that the scholars don't take that approach. They say, to you be your way and to me be mine, based on their understanding of what the Quran tells us. And again, that means they understand that to mean don't waste time arguing with the devil. They're not saying that the people that you be talking to are actually the devil, but they are influenced. The devil's influences come into them to make them argumentative. Like even the people of Moses, who were supposed to be following Moses, they were considered, the Quran calls them an argumentative people. And they argued with the prophet Moses every step of the way. He's trying to lead them to success and to freedom. And while he's trying to lead them to freedom, they're arguing with him. You know? Now, if he had stopped the arguing with every one of them that was arguing with him, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish his mission, his goal. Now, but one other thing I'll mention, make mention of this, and this is from Oprah Winfrey, believe it or not. I remember hearing Oprah Winfrey say that there was she didn't say who the person was, some woman that they had some very harsh words between the two of them. They had some bad feelings. She had bad feelings toward the woman. She felt that the woman had bad feelings toward her. They stopped speaking and this and that. And she said she carried that burden with her for a long time. Until one day, she saw the woman. The woman didn't see her. She saw the woman from a distance. And she said she just stopped and observed the woman, looked at the woman. The woman was going about her life. She said just as happy. Today I think she was shopping and she was having a good time. And then she's miserable because she's carrying this burden of this relationship. She said that's when she realized that she had to let it go in order for her to heal, in order for her to move forward. Regardless, the woman never came back and apologized to her. The woman, but she happened to see the woman going on with her life. The woman is happy. Then she said to herself, "She happy. I'm holding a grudge. I'm suffering. She's not suffering. And in order for me to heal, I gotta let this go." So she said she dropped it. She forgave the woman. The woman may not have never known that she forgave her. When I say forgive, don't necessarily mean you go to the person and say, "I forgive you." Right. But in your heart, and in your mind and your soul, you let it go, you forgive, and you move on. You chalk that up as I have learned to do in some cases. I say, well, let Allah handle that. Right. Let Allah handle them and their stupidity, their ignorance, or their discrimination, or whatever. Allah will take care of that. But I've had to do with my own family members, believe it or not. I haven't had to do that. And I struggled for a long time. One situation, I struggled for a long time. Well, I finally had to let it go. It took me I'm talking about years. And I had to finally let it go. And when I let it go, I felt better. And I said, I got to leave that to Allah. I can't keep carrying this. It's too much. And so I understand. Yes, Yusuf. I'm going to take about 5 more minutes here. Go ahead.
The level that you're talking about is called compassion. When you have a compassion for a human being.
Yeah.
Then you can,
it's the same word, mercy.
Yeah.
It's rahmah. It's mercy. Mercy means compassion also. It's mercy. Ghafur Rahim, remember? And Allah says he does that. He says, Now, this is the way they translate it. The oft-forgiving, the merciful. And I don't use that word oft. He often, or he frequently, forgives and shows mercy. He frequently, or often, forgives and shows mercy. But the translators, most of the translators, the oft-forgiving, the merciful. Took me a long time to even figure out what the word oft. I mean, what that's that old English language that they use. You don't even know what they're talking about.
Off repeating too.
You know, yeah, oft repeating, you know. He often or frequently, you know, or regularly does it. He forgives and he shows mercy.
Are you talking about Atlanta Van Zandt? Because they had this little commotion going on.
I don't know who it was.
And she ended up bringing her to a show.
She never did say who it was.
Oh, okay.
She never did say. I don't know. I know she had some problem with that particular person
and
too.
they rectified
But I
it.
don't know if that's the person that she was
Okay.
talking about in this situation here.
Yeah.
So I don't know because she never did say who it was.
She fixed that.
Yes, sir. Assalamu
Well,
alaikum.
no
Say
problem.
this, I just want to tell you them, I needed to hear what you just said, about the positions, because, you had also said one time that, one morning, Arthur, you was like, people can always find an excuse to do what they want to do. So I needed to hear what you just said about the position, that, hey, I'm the man, so I can't do that. And my mode of thinking, and I've heard it all the time, say, okay, I want to strive to be like the Prophet Muhammad. And I guess a confession, like, well, I know I can't get like that, so my thing was, I ain't really trying to get up that high, you know, which I shouldn't be thinking like that, but that was my mode of thinking. And it was an excuse, you see, it was an excuse to say, well, no, I ain't gonna try to get that high. But then I said, the reason I needed to hear this, because what you said as you being an imam, right? Certain, or you being the president of certain things you just hear, right? So on my note, I have to, like you said, Imam Fareed or Vernon Fareed, right? So my thing is Kenny Bullock or brother Kenny Bullock. and the thing is, just like the Christians, when they get saved, they become a whole different person. So they have to take that mindset. I'm saved now, so now I can't do this. So on my same note, I have to say, well, you know what? Kenny Bullock wouldn't let you have it, but brother Kenny, I have to say, I have to decide, just like the Christians, once they get saved, to say, okay, well now, who do I want to be? So from here on out, I want to be brother Kenny.
Okay.
I want to be brother Kenny, and I got to stay like that. I'm not trying to give in to whenever it's convenient.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And let me say something on that. I use my title, but we all have a title.
That's right.
We all have a title. I just use, in fact, I use a couple of them. But you're precisely right. But here's how we should think of ourselves, whether you imam, like I am, I'm an imam, and many are not. They don't carry that title officially. But we are all believers. That's one thing we all are. Or we all supposed to be believers. And even if I wasn't an imam, as a believer, I'm still held to a higher standard. And that standard is to follow all that I say I believe in. I believe in the Quran. I believe in Allah. I believe in the Day of Judgment. I believe in Qadr, divine ordinance. I believe in all these things. The Yom Akhir, the life after. I believe in all these things. I believe in the angels. So all these things that I say I believe in, I still have to hold those things up above me as what I should strive for and how I should structure my life. So whether you imam or not, again, I just use mine, and I'm glad you brought it up because, everybody's not an imam. So they might say, well, I'm not an imam. Well, he was talking about himself, he's an imam, but I'm not an imam, so I don't have that standard to raise myself up. But we do, all of us, even if I wasn't an imam, I have a standard to hold myself higher to, which is that I'm a believer in all. If I believe in all I say I believe in, then I have to hold myself to that higher standard.
Yes, sir. My problem was that I felt that Brother Kenny Lee, right? Brother Kenny Lee wasn't I guess worthy enough, or my standard. Brother Kenny Lee's standard is not like a hot,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And that was my
And
problem.
one-
Now I see it is.
And one more point I want to make, which is minor correction. Well, it's a correction. It's not a minor correction. It's just a correction on something you said. And all of us should understand it, because it's what the Quran says. Allah gave us Muhammad the Prophet as a model, an example. He said if the earth had been populated with angels, he would have sent us an angel. But since the earth is populated with humans, he produced a human as our model. And he told Muhammad to tell the people, that I'm a mortal. It doesn't just mean flesh and blood. It means a sensitive creature. Just like you. Mithlukun, that word mithl, it means similar. In the same way, similar, comparable. Just like you, kun, all of you. So, and it says in another place in the Quran, it says that the only difference, I'm just summing it up, summarizing it. The only difference in Muhammad the Prophet and us, in terms of our potential, is that he received the revelation of the Quran. He was a messenger of God. He was a messenger of God, which means he received the revelation of the Quran, and we did not. But here's the correction. The correction is this: we can do what he did.
We grow to that level.
We can grow. We have the potential to grow to that level. Everything that he did, as a human being, we have the potential. We have the inherent human potential to do it. Whether we want to do it or not, or whether we're strong enough to do it, whether we're willing to do it, whether you're ready to do it, is a whole different ball game. But we have the same human potential in us that he had in him. And that's the correction.
Brother Man, have I ever heard you say that we are our own imams over us ourselves?
Yes.
And we are the imams over our folks.
And that's why, again, I'm very particular when I talk. That's why I said, Imam who what's the word I just used? Formerly have the office. I have the office upon me. It's on me publicly. Publicly. We had a situation to clear up what I'm trying to say. We had situations when we would have meetings nationally. We go places and the imam said, I want to meet with the imams. Well, you have brothers coming in there that, man, where you going, man? You know? And everybody know he's not an imam, but nobody wants to tell the brother, come on now. You know, this is a meeting for the imam. You know? And what we would hope is that the imam or imams in that city would tell him, we said, no, brother, you know you're not an imam. You're in the masjid with me. That's what we would hope would happen. But in many cases, it doesn't happen. But I remember we had a situation when I was a national convener for the imams, and we had an imam meeting, and this particular brother was coming in, and somebody made a fuss about it. They said, well, brother, that brother's not an imam. And they came to me because I'm the convener. Now they want me to make the decision. I think his name was Bilal. We went to Hajj together. I said, come on, Bilal. I said, come on, man, you know. Imam Muhammad said, we all imams. And he did. But he quoted the imam out of context.
Right.
He quoted the imam out of context. When the imam said that, that's another thing. People quote the imam out of context. You can't take something the imam said, whether it's a written statement or even if you have a DVD, a video or something, you gotta know the context in which the imam said that. If you go back now and get some of the DVDs, transcripts from when Imam Muhammad was talking in 1976, it's obsolete. It's not relevant today. You have to know how to pick and choose from the transcripts, videos, and all that stuff that are available. You have to know what's relevant. You have to know what some of us do, who are real students. we look for the latest thing he said. Because he would say something 20 years ago, then a few years later, he'll modify it a little bit. Ishmael, you know what I'm talking about. One thing he said, because you watched the video of the talk that he gave to the young adults. And he was talking about marriage, right? And he was saying, he said, so my position was so-and-so and so-and-so, and the young sisters, she's like, hey, you're like, yeah, that's right. He said, hold it. He said, that was my position. Then, and everybody laughed, you know? And he said, this is my position now. And this is why I changed my position. So some people don't see the Imam or understand the Imam was also, he was evolving also. He was evolving. Now that's the way I see him. And I understand him. I know him to be the Imam, a person who Allah was constantly educating and evolved. He wasn't born with all that knowledge. And even after he became 40 years old, he didn't have all that knowledge he had when he became 50 years old. He didn't have all that knowledge when he became 70 years old. He evolved. Allah was evolving him and growing him and educating him. It was a point I was trying to make, and I forgot it. But
who was talking about you be your own imam? Or
yeah, be the only man. Okay, so here's what he said. He said you're imam for yourself. All imam, but you're not imam for the community. He said, I'm talking about imam for the community. I'm an imam for the community. I'm not just an imam for myself, you know. And when I go, like one brother who was right here in the Masjid, I visited his home one time, and he said, okay, imam, lead us in prayer. No, this is your house. You the imam here. And if I come, if any of you brothers invite me to your house, that's the position I'm going to take. You the imam in this house. I'm not the imam in this house. You the imam in this house. Now, if you insist on me leading the prayer, I'll do it. But you got to insist on me doing it. I'm not going to assume the position of imam in your house. You the imam in your house. You're supposed to be the imam in your house. And if you don't know how to pray, and you ask me to lead you in prayer, you and your family or whatever, I'll do it. But I'm not coming into your house and saying, oh, I'm the imam now. Well, brother, get out of the way. You know? No, I'm not supposed to do that. That's not right. So we all imams over ourselves, but you're not imam for the community unless you have been summoned and asked to take on responsibility like I have done here. I was asked to take on responsibility. And that's why the Prophet said, if a person asks to be your imam, don't make him your imam. And he meant that, and that has to be understood too. He didn't mean if somebody says that, for example, if I take the Devon, and we're talking about botany and plants and herbage and growing food and stuff like that, I'm lost. I admit I'm lost. And if he steps up and says, well, you know, I got some knowledge of that, and I can help in that area, he's not doing it out of arrogance. He's not doing that because he just wants to be the leader. He's just acknowledging that he can make a contribution. And so if none of us have the level of knowledge that he has in that area, he should take the lead. In that sense, he's the imam. In that area, he's the imam, he's the leader. He's the amir. Amir would be a more appropriate term, even though this is kind of a political term, but he would be the one, and the Prophet said, whenever you have a delegation, you go out, somebody should be the leader. You can't have a whole lot of chiefs and no Indians, as they say. You know, but you have to appoint someone as the spokesperson. You know, otherwise you find yourself in trouble in situations like has happened to, I have witnessed so many times when people don't respect leadership. You know, get in trouble. Okay, time. Okay, one more question.
Well, I listened to that the CD you gave me.
Yeah.
It was a question posed to the man. The way the question was presented, it was he was saying that there's two books that the Quran says are closed.
Right.
I think the term he used was Ijin and Sitjin, I think. And but the Imam didn't answer the question like that. He answered the question as if the question wasn't answered correctly.
Right.
He was just saying those terms mean it's out of reach for the
That's
common
exactly
and all
right.
that.
That's right.
What exactly are those
Those,
terms now?
those terms refer to prison. And those terms are, and that's how they're translated. They're translated as prisons.
Is it two books or are those terms being referred to the Quran?
No, those are concepts. They're actually concepts in life. They are in the Quran. Those terms are in the Quran, but they are translated as prison, as a prison or prisons. But it doesn't mean what the Imam was saying to the person that asked the question. It doesn't mean prison. And then he gave some other terms, or he alluded to other terms that said what it really means is that this is something out of the reach of the common person. It's beyond the reach, the intellectual reach of the common person. And so, because it's beyond the intellectual reach of the person, the individual can't benefit from it. That's what he was essentially saying.
And that's in reference to the Quran.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in reference to the Quran and in reference to the Bible and other scriptures also, not just Quran and Bible, but other scriptures. Yeah, the Torah, for example, is a reference to all of them. Yes, exactly right. So it's metaphorical language that's given in the Quran, and the translator has the difficult task of trying to translate, and you can't put commentary into the translation, the tafsir commentary into the translation. So therefore, it takes a commentary, like the Imam was given a commentary on those terms, and in giving the commentary, he said the real meaning of those words mean it's out of the reach of the common person, or the average person. It's beyond their understanding.
That's not quite comparable to throwing pearls of swine.
No, no.
Because that's real low.
No,
Pearls
no,
of swine.
no. This is the question specifically was about some terms in the Quran,
Gotcha.
and what did those terms mean? And he addressed it by saying not just those terms, but there are other terms in the Quran that mean they're given and they're translated, but they are terms that if you know the essence of those terms, it means that it is something that is out of the reach, the mental grasp, the mental understanding of the average person.
I mean, I can give a kind of example from my own experience. I mean, I don't know how much it's applied, but the very first time I picked up the Quran, I had to kind of study Islam a little bit. Then I found out, I did my research, see which book I need to get. First time I picked it up, it was like, I thought it was everywhere. I couldn't really comprehend it. It seemed like it was all over the place.
Right.
And then I came back to it maybe about 3-4 months later, and it just flowed.
Were you going to say something, Tony?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It's hot.